Welcome to the revolution.
Fort Bragg lost over 80 soldiers from sudden and unexplained causes, to a point where they completely stopped reporting the deaths after June of 2021. It's been a full year now where they have not been reporting these deaths. So I'm going to read this article. It says, one of the largest military installations in the world, Fort Bragg, is home to approximately 54,000 military personnel and includes the Special Forces, the Airborne Corps, the Joint Special Forces Operations Command. In just 18 months, Fort Bragg lost over 80 soldiers from sudden and unexplained causes, according to officials. 33 of the fatalities are undetermined causes. Fort Bragg cannot explain why dozens of soldiers are dying in their own bunks. During the same 18-month period, 3 Fort Bragg soldiers died in overseas combat. Wow. So 3 soldiers died in the line of duty in the same time that more than 80 soldiers died unexplained in their beds. Now, I'm not even going to jump into why I think that may be. Let's let the article do the talking, and then we'll discuss it after. But I think that's pretty unbelievable. 3 soldiers died overseas in combat at Fort Bragg, which is a special forces base, while 80 soldiers died from unexplained causes. Wow. So it says this means that soldiers stationed at Fort Bragg are 27 times more likely to die unexpectedly in their homes than they are in overseas combat. Fort Bragg stops reporting the soldiers' deaths after dozens of soldiers are found dead in their bunks. An investigative reporter for Rolling Stones magazine, Seth Harp, has been looking into this medical anomaly. On February 9th of 2022, Seth reported that the death of 83 soldiers at Fort Bragg in the 18 months ending in June 2021. Fort Bragg stopped reporting the fatalities after June 2021, but the body counts continue to rise. Out of the 83 sudden and unexplained fatalities, 11 of them were determined to be from natural causes. Imagine that. The healthiest soldiers in the world, these special forces soldiers at a special forces base. Now, they're not all special forces, obviously, but it's a pretty damn healthy base. 27 times more likely to die unexplainedly in their bunks than from actual combat. So it says that 11 of them were determined to be from natural causes. Harp wrote that Fort Bragg soldiers have been turning up unresponsive in their barracks on a disturbingly regular basis since the beginning of 2020, including Caleb Smither, Terrence Salazar, Jamie Bogger, Joshua Diamond, Matthew Disney, Mikel Rubino, Michael Hamilton, and numerous others who have not been named. Drugs were involved in the deaths of Joshua Diamond and Matthew Disney. The 2 were found dead on the same day in June 2021, just 2 weeks after Airborne Master Sergeant Martin Acevedo, the 3rd, was caught trafficking cocaine. Wow, okay, that took a turn. Drugs are only a small part of the problem. In January of 2021, Army Captain Robert Latham died suddenly after an apparent heart attack. The 32-year-old was previously in top physical condition. A Green Beret named Calvin Rockward passed away from a sudden and unexplained medical event. The 38-year-old was in excellent physical condition as well. According to Seth, 9 more young and fit soldiers were found unresponsive in their bunks. The U.S. Army and Fort Bragg refused to report on the surge in deaths, disrespecting the soldiers and their families. Could there be a serious drug problem going on at Fort Bragg? Could these deaths indicate a surge in suicides and overdoses? The military continues to be assaulted by mandates that harm soldiers physically and mentally. The vaccine mandates damage combat readiness, while banishing the strongest, healthiest freedom fighters from the ranks. Now, I think that's interesting to note. The military had a complete and total, basically anybody who refused to get vaccinated got thrown out. Now, I personally know of a soldier who literally lost eyesight after being forced to take the vaccine. And then they wouldn't give him an honorable discharge to get out. It's unbelievable to me the way that our military has been going about this. Now, what I think this has to do with more so even than the vaccine is getting agreeable soldiers. You can very easily find where party lines lie when you talk about vaccine mandates. It's a weird thing that medical science has to somehow be politicized to the point where, if you're unvaccinated, you're probably laying on one side, and if you're vaccinated, you're probably lying on the other side. Sometimes it intermingles, but in this case, a lot of times that holds true. So in the military, if you just do a massive, basically, kicking out of everybody who does not decide to get vaccinated, you're basically kicking out anybody who disagrees with the political ideology of the president who held office or holds office. And I saw a video the other day, it was on TikTok or something, where there was literally a soldier who was talking and saying how he was, he thought he was like going to be the only one who was getting kicked out for not taking the vaccine. And he showed up for his discharge. And unbeknownst to him, there was a huge line of soldiers who were being discharged specifically because of their medical status. Crazy. So this article goes on to say, the military's medical database explodes with 1,000% increase in medical issues in 2021. Now, you have to realize that our soldiers have to be within a certain age. When I was in, I believe the oldest that you could enlist was about 29. I was 18 when I enlisted. But I believe when I was enlisting, the oldest you could be is 29. Now you can get like a medical waiver up to 39, but you're young, right? You're pretty damn young if you're going into the military. So 1,000% increase in medical issues in 2021, exactly preceding the time when they did a forced vaccination. The military health system began administering the spike protein mRNA to military service members on December 14th of 2020. Since then, the military has administered more than 6.4 million doses, fully inoculating 90.1% of active duty service members with the 2-dose protocol. Pretty crazy. Now, this goes on to ask, this is a little bit of a biased article, so, take this with a grain of salt and read about it on your own. But this goes on to say that what role does the shot have on the number of unexpected and undetermined deaths? Why is Fort Bragg less safe than it was before the mask testing and vaccine mandates? The Army is failing to keep soldiers combat ready, and this is evidenced by the military's own medical surveillance system. Defense Medical Epidemiology database is used to detect surges of injury and illnesses in the military to make sure that all of the individuals are combat ready. The DMED and the Armed Forces Health Surveillance Branch's web-based tool to remotely query de-identified active component personnel and medical event data contained within the Defense Medical Surveillance System. Wow, that was a mouthful. In January 2022, attorneys Thomas Renz and Leah Dundas retrieved the DMED data from the military whistleblowers, Dr. Samuel Singoloff, Peter Chambers, and Teresa Long. The data was provided to Senator Ron Johnson at a historic roundtable meeting with doctors and lawyers. According to the data, the 5-year average for medical issues in the military was 1.7 million codes. After the jab protocol was mandated on the military, the number of medical issues spiked to 22 million. 22 million from 1.7 million, which is a 1,000% increase, over 1,000% increase. Many of the issues are directly related to these jabs, including Bell's palsy, myocardial infraction, pulmonary embolisms, and neurological disorders. One of the military doctors testified, "It is my professional opinion that the major increases in incidences of the above discussed instances of miscarriages, cancers, and disease were due to these jabs." Wow. That's terrifying, right? That you can go into a position and you're already so vulnerable. Like when you go to boot camp, when you go to tech school, like the whole point of going to boot camp is so they can literally like diminish your personality to a point where they can mold you to be a soldier, right? So you're already so vulnerable. You're already, have all of these people of authority who are running on a bus, screaming at you the second you get into boot camp, and you're really in this vulnerable position. And so the fact that they're now mandating that you get an experimental medication or experimental drug within the first few days that you're there, leading to a 1,000% increase for young, healthy individuals in medical instances, such as Bell's palsy, myocardial infraction, and pulmonary embolisms, which is terrifying. That's terrifying. right? That's crazy. And we're not even seeing long-term data yet, right? That 1,000% is literally just the last 2 years. Has nothing to do with long-term effects of this. Has nothing to do with long-term cancers or, any of the long-term effects that we're going to see on this. So it's going to be interesting to follow the data. I am not going to give my, I'll go off of this article. I'll let you guys form your own opinion. But it's definitely weird that there's 1,000% increase here. That's pretty crazy. And obviously, we hope that all of our soldiers are okay and that these medical events tend to go away.